that are unfamiliar, Hex is a fully digital TCG where things like keep getting a bunch of one-landers in your 7-card hands when you have 27 resources in your deck don't happen. So Hex has a modified opening hand algorithm that uses the digital space to reduce the variance that the game has. And we get to play sweet things like a Reanimator Storm deck, so we're going to play Reanimator Storm in Hex's standard format here for a little bit. So this deck it's got a Reanimator main deck plan, and then Jonas, brah, enjoy the stream a lot. Been watching the mind at work personally rather than the feature match or some sort of instance. I know you said you make more money into Joe, but will we see you at SCG Live H2? I'm not planning to play at SCG events anytime soon. It's so expensive to travel on the weekends, and it's just Storm and Hex kind of not exactly look close. It means we play a bunch of spells and then kill our opponent the same turn with all the spells that we played. So there isn't an actual Storm mechanic in Hex, but we effectively draw our entire deck and then play a bunch of cards and kill them. So one of the things that's different between Hex and Magic, you'd see my opponent and I each have different portraits, and these aren't just cosmetic. They have an effect on the gameplay. And how it works is, every time we play so many resources, we each have a champion power that does different things for us. So my champion actually helps enable our Reanimator strategy. For 3 charges, it lets me draw a card and then discard a card. So it lets me put my fatties in my bin so I can reanimate them. And my opponent's champion for 3 charges lets them sacrifice a troop to draw a card and gain 3 life. There are 2 decks that I would consider the best decks in Hex's current constructed format. If you're looking for an aggressive deck, the Blood Ruby Redlings deck is probably the best aggressive deck in Hex's current constructed format. But I think Sapphire Diamond Control is a very close second for the best deck in the format. I think Redlings is the most powerful, but I think Sapphire Diamond Control is a very, very close second. So my opponent's champion lets them sacrifice troops, so they're playing what's likely a Deathcry deck. It's a deck that plays a bunch of troops like this that have an effect when they die. I think I'd rather Theorize than play my Exarch of the Aegilus here. So Theorize lets me draw 2 cards and then discard 1. This is a collectible card game. So Hex has a full buy-sell trade secondary market. In fact, that advertisement that's rotating the upper right-hand corner there, hexprimal.com, they are one of my stream sponsors. You can kind of think of them as the Star City Games or the MTGO traders of Hex. They're a third-party site that's not officially affiliated with Hex. And then if you want to get into the game, you can just fill a shopping cart on their website and then press the checkout button. It is a collectible card game. Okay, so this is actually a good educational moment. So all trading card games are collectible card games, but not all collectible card games are trading card games. Just so everyone understands where we're at here. So this card is a 2/2 that when it dies, it makes other things, and whenever they play a troop, it gets bigger. So I could choose to Transmogrifade this, which turns it into a random 2-cost troop that'll likely get rid of the Deathcry effects. But I could also kind of play this Heart's Whisper. If I play the Heart's Whisper, I'd have to discard cards because we have a max hand size of 7 and this draws 2. Yeah, I think I'm just going to Transmogrifade this and then play this Exarch of the Egg this turn. So you can see here when I zoom in on this card, it shows the Runebind Hierophant in the corner because this is the card that this was, but it's transformed into a 2-drop now. Hi, buddy. We can go for a walk after your brother gets home from school, okay? Yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and trade this here. Just, like, preserve my life total. For a real competitive deck, the Tier 1 decks range somewhere between $50 and $150. The Redlings deck that we just talked about, that we said was the best deck in this current constructed format, it's right around $100 to build outright. Culmination and Blood's a great one to get rid of here. So Withering Gaze lets me look at my opponent's hands and take one of their non-troops out of it. And I'm going to go ahead and take this Culmination and Blood that makes me discard my entire hand. So let's get rid of that one. I'm going to go ahead and play this Permafrost. And what Permafrost does is it doesn't make a color towards my resources, but it lets me strip all of the colors off one of my cards. So this Aegilus is a card we normally can't cast because my deck doesn't actually make diamond. We plan to discard this and then reanimate it. But Permafrost lets me strip those off, and now this is shardless, so I don't have to have any specific shard colors here to play this out. So Heart's Whisper, in addition to drawing 2 cards, has a really powerful mechanic called Fate Weave attached to it. So I get to choose resource or non-resource, and then it's going to stack my deck before I draw the card. So I'm going to choose non-resource, so I'm guaranteed that one of these 2 cards I draw is going to be a non-resource. Hey, Shannon, with the 9-month resubscription. Thank you for the continued support. Today, our Twitch baby is born, as the egg pops. The gifts are kind of delayed on, what's it called? Whatever that website is, Streamlabs. I wonder if they're having some bandwidth issues. What is rotation for this kind of deck? I'm not sure I understand. Oh, like, what cards does this deck lose at rotation? Is that your question? So Hex's standard format is really easy to follow on the rotation cycle. They rotate their oldest 2 sets every even set release. So when set 8 releases, sets 3 and 4 will rotate out of standard. So we know my opponent has a Gruesome Deed in their hand, which lets them sacrifice one of their troops to destroy something else. I think I'm going to start by looting here and see what we get. A Theorize. Alright, I'm going to bin this other Aegilus here. I'm going to go ahead and Heart's Whisper for a non-resource and see what we get. Transmogrifade. An Eternal and a non-rotating format in Hex currently exists in the theoretical, but it does not have particularly good support currently. That being said, there's only 2 sets in their non-rotating format that don't exist in their standard format, because Hex only has 7 sets currently. So I hope we'll see more support for it as Hex matures and there's like actually a very reasonable difference. But like the couple of Immortal tournaments we've had so far, they're basically just people playing standard decks because the card pool's not that different between standard and Immortal currently. So these are 3/2 flyers that when they die, they give something else a dice trigger to summon a 6/6 flyer. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and hit this Theorize and see what we find. We did not find a non-slow shard, which is kind of what I'm looking for. I'm going to bin this Aegilus. So this Eternal Seeker is a card that we can... what's the word I'm looking for? We can reanimate it early on turn 4 with one of our reanimation spells, but it also costs 7 in a shardless, so we can just cast this card. It's a 5/5 with Flight that says when it comes into play, we choose a number, and then we void all cards with that chosen number cost. So ideally we'll get to put it out and void all their 3-drops here. Perfect. So let's put this in this Primal Prism here. I'm going to go ahead and play the Sapphire Ice, which Fate Weaves when it comes into play, so I'm going to get to draw a non-resource next turn. And I'm just going to go ahead and pass the turn here with this Runebind up to protect my hand from any interaction my opponent can possibly draw. Do you have any advice for someone who's in a position to qualify for this? Just have fun, you know. It's a free roll tournament, right? Like you didn't have to pay an entry fee. You qualified for it just by playing a bunch of Hex. So just like enjoy yourself. It'll be interesting to see if they sacrifice one of these to draw a card, since they know I could play an Eternal Seeker next turn. Yeah, I like this line from them. So they're doing that to draw a card and put this onto here, because the Eternal Seeker is just going to get to void both of these next turn anyways. Second Eternal Seeker is actually kind of an awkward draw. I guess they usually don't play Hero Fall, right? So I'm going to play this Seeker out, and it voids my opponent's thing, which for the Magic players is similar to exiling, so they don't get the Deathcry triggers off of it. The 1Ks for Hex on Saturdays are open entry, but they are not free. They have a $7 entry fee. But anyone who has the $7 worth of in-game currency can join them. I don't think Storm has a good burn matchup, but I don't know that for certain, so don't quote me on that. So they played their Runeir, and then they played Gruesome Deed to sacrifice it to destroy my 5/5. Right? Alright, I'm going to start by looting here, see what we got. Would like a Reanimate spell. Another Withering Gaze. Huh. I don't think I need 2 of those. Am I just playing this and voiding this? I think I am. What's wrong with the interface? As someone who's played a lot of Magic Online, I'll take Hex's interface over Magic's. The only thing that Magic currently does better than Hex is the deck editor, and Hex leaves a little bit to be desired. It's kind of clunky. This version plays Hero Fall. Maybe. I think I'm just going to play this Seeker, because like we're at 4. It's like I really don't want to take a hit from these. I could just die here. PayPal. US will give you a check. Oh, do you have to? Do you have to take a check in the US? I guess they've always bailed me a check. Oh, right. We could have known that was coming. All right. Well, let's hopefully draw a Reanimate spell here. So Woken Draktar. This card's kind of neat. It costs 25 to start, and then every time they play a troop, its cost gets reduced by that troop's total cost. So this cost 9 because they had played 16 cost worth of troops, and then when this 9 entered play, it made their other one free. And this gives all of their troops +5/+5 while it's in play. Gen Con was a lot of fun, Speed. So we have a few draws here. If we draw one of our 6 reanimate spells, we'll be okay because we can reanimate. We can actually just reanimate Aegilus and buy Infinite Charmed with these Runebinds. He's debating on if he wants to sack this to draw a card. Since he's got 2 lethal troops anyways, it doesn't seem unreasonable.
Hi, Daddy.
Hi, Declan.
Hi.
Oh, their costs are different, so they can't be secured. Good catch. So, I'm technically not dead yet, because I can Runebind 2 of their things. I'm technically not dead yet. Runebind's kind of like a delay card. It lets me turn one of their cards in play or on the chain into a mysterious rune, which kind of slides it off to the side for a little while. So I can Runebind both of these dorks. Which means this is going to turn into a 1/1. So, this is actually a really good question. So, Transmogrifade says it reverts and then transforms it. So, because it reverts it, it's going to turn it back into a 25 cost and then turn it into a 24/24, that which does not exist. And they hit the thing right away. That's an Aegilus, not a Reanimate spell. Sometimes your 1/2 combo deck doesn't find one of its 1/2. So we have 6 Reanimate spells. 6 Reanimate spells. So Dread End's pretty good here. It reverts and transforms every troop into play into a Dreadling. Okay, I'm assuming Telperial. This is just fucking great. This is good. I get to blast you because you're a shithead. Dad likes telling people they're idiots. Yeah, Dad likes telling people they're idiots. You play Magic the Gathering, and you're telling me you can't play a game with someone that has a technology issue? You play Magic the Gathering, a company that is known for its digital prowess, right? Just like when you think about digital prowess in the gaming industry, you think Magic the Gathering, right? Because that's the truth. No, you don't. You don't. Sorry. Whoops. Hex is not perfect. No software is perfect. You don't play Magic, but you play Magic. You deal with their bullshit all the time. Do you play Paper Magic? You deal with Whir. You deal with the Planeswalker Points website. So like I don't know what you like, you know. As someone who's a realist, I don't expect software to be perfect. I just, you know, expect reasonable responses. And like, all right, I am not Hex support. That being said, like in the time it talked to you to like post that message here complaining, you could have messaged support. And like if their support doesn't help you, well then, you know, probably fuck Hex. And like, but their support should probably help you. Yeah, to use a Windows-based operating system. Alright, so I have Dread in. So I think I'm supposed to leave Aegilus in. I don't actually know what I want to cut. Withering Gaze is probably a little bit medium. I probably don't ever want to draw two of them. Alright, let's just save here before I submit without a sideboard, without reserving. I know I want Dread End. Maybe Massacre is okay? There's plenty of people that say they've never had an issue with Magic Online either. Like, you know, sometimes you run hot. Yeah, talk about they literally just ended their previous standard gauntlet early because it was too buggy. Alright, resources are actually what we're looking for here, so that's fine. I'm going to Withering Gaze them, see what's up over here. 2 Hero Falls, okay. I think my wife left the gate opened upstairs. I need to go retrieve my toddler. I'll be right back. Yep. Yeah, I have a hard time getting into the collectible card games. It's technically both, yep. Alright, well, we can bin that. Play this out, grab a Sapphire. We know they have a Hero Fall in their hand, so we're probably going to want to wait till we hit another Withering Gaze to bring that one into play. I wonder if they're going to hit this right away to split this up so I can't transmog it. Correct, yes. There's a full buy-sell trade secondary market. So this is kind of an interesting point. I have 4 resources here, and I have to decide, do I want to bin this Eternal Seeker, so that way I can Mordrom's gift it back, or do I want to hold it in my hand so I can just cast it on 7, and Mordrom's gift this Aegilus back into play? I think I'd actually rather Mordrom's gift the Aegilus, and then card cast the Seeker. That's annoying. Now I'm really glad I kept the Seeker. I'm going to transmog this in response to take its power level down. Rang it. Yeah, I can play some Redlings after we play a match or two with this deck. I just found out that my wife is still home, so she could take Jake off the bus when he gets home in an hour. So we can play X for a couple hours here. Enjoy ourselves. Yeah, by definition, all trading card games are also collectible card games, just by the definition of the thing. In fact, before digital existed and Hearthstone invented not being able to trade, all went back and forth, right? Like trading card games, and they were just universally interchangeable. I did not play the Bash. I was at Gen Con all weekend. A mill archetype does technically exist, but much like Magic, it's not particularly good. Commander prompt, that's interesting. I think I'm okay trading here. Nah, I'm just gonna take 4. Next year we could Runebind this and then block this. Lantern did just win a thing. You're not wrong. You are not wrong. Lantern did technically just win a thing. Huh. Do I want this Dread End? I kind of want the resource so I can, like, cast this Eternal Seeker. Probably just want this Dread End. Yeah, you could trade baseball cards. Like, you can't limit people from trading in physical card games. Well, that's a tilt. This matchup seems pretty tough. This deck's better positioned against the Ruby aggressive decks in the format. I guess I could have Runebound that, but, like, they could just go resource, do a thing, right? So if I had taken the resource last turn, we'd have gotten to play Eternal Seeker this turn. No, you need 3D acceleration. It's a 3D video game. Linux is great, but it's not going to make a non-3D game run on a non-3D thing. Transmog this now. Ooh, they got something with Deathcry. That's valuable. I'm gonna get a charge with this, I think. Be really sad when we draw Rotten Rancor here. Maybe I should have held my champion power there since I didn't really have anything I really wanted to discard. That's probably true. Alright, that one will Runebind. Since I don't have anything else for it to target or take. Even if they manage to draw another card here, Eternal Seeker still gets it. I'm gonna lose to this stupid motor chariot. That's not strictly free, Bob, because then, like, it turns back into, Oh! Oh, yeah, you're right. If I Runebind the troop, then I could have played this for 2 and taken out the Motor Chariot and the troop. I had in my head that if I Runebind the troop, he was going to turn it back into a prompt the following turn. Okay, yeah, and we're probably going to die to this Motor Chariot now. Yeah, that makes sense. We're going to die to any troop here. Technically did to that one too. Whoops. Alright, let's keep another one here. It's been a few days, we're rusty. Did anyone post that we were hexing on stream? I always like to play a couple of matches with the deck instead of just swapping back and forth. It makes the video archives better. I like to break up my match archives based on deck lists. So if I like play one with Reanimator and then play one with Redlings and then play one with Reanimator, I'd either have to have a bunch of videos on my YouTube page for the day, or I'd have to like manually splice them together, which is a lot of work. So we'll play 2 or 3 matches with the Reanimator deck, and then we'll play 2 or 3 matches with the Redlings deck after. Speaking of Redlings, yeah, let's Permafrost and Arcane Focus and see what feels good. So, these wells don't make thresholds if we don't already have thresholds, but this Permafrost can strip all the thresholds from this Arcane Focus. So we can go turn 1, Permafrost, Focus, and then we have 3 looks at a Blood or a Sapphire here for these Wells of Cunning. Yep, the different champions have different starting health totals. You see here, my opponent starts with 24 and I start with 21. Alright, well, we didn't find that, but we found a Permafrost or Theorize for next turn, I guess. Yeah, there are a lot of champions. I don't actually know offhand how many there are, but there are a good number of them. Never didn't have it. So because I have 3 more resources in my hand here, I'm gonna Fate Weave a non-resource to the top of my deck guaranteed here. Looking to find an Aegilus as soon as possible here. Since I have my champion power to discard with next turn, I can use this a little bit aggressively here. Hitting Exarch of the Egg is pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and bin this Shard of Cunning, I think. We can Runebind my opponent's played Exarch if they like try and play an Underworld Crusader or another speedy 3-drop. Crimson Slayer, sure. So if they hit their champion power here in response to their champion power, I'm going to go ahead and Runebind their Emperor's Lackey. So Runebind kind of slides it off to the side and delays it. And the reason why I'm doing this in response is my opponent's champion power makes 1/1 Dreadlings that attack us based on the number of different troop types that they have. So this is a Necrotic, and this was a Shin Hair Rabbit. So that means they would have made 2 if they let that resolve instead of Runebinding in response. Wow, are there that many? There's probably, what, like a dozen, maybe 20 or so that see play with some regularity. There's like 5 tier 1 decks with 5 that use 5 different champions. But there's nowhere near 70 that see like regular constructed play competitively. So if they don't have something that scrounges here, they can't attack into my Exarch of the Egg, which feels good. Nice, they don't. Yeah, I'm going to Heart's Whisper here to start. Get a non-resource guaranteed. That feels pretty bad. Alright, let's go ahead and loot with this, see what we get. Looking for a fatty. That's not a fatty. I think Empress would be the fifth deck I would put up there. Empress might be tier 2. It hasn't had a ton of results. It's been like floating in like the top 32s, the bashes, but I think Empress is the last like really powerful archetype up there. Had 13 different champions played at least twice. Yeah, that sounds about right. About a dozen seems reasonable. There's a number of champions that are like clearly there for the limited format, not for constructed. Yeah, I was at 5. So, ooh, Haunting Cry in the main deck. That's interesting. Oh, so opponent made a pretty sizable mistake here. They played this without any scrounge fodder in their crypt. They could have sacrificed this Dreadling to put a scrounge fodder in their crypt, which would have let this make 3 more plus 2 more here. So my opponents missed generating 5 Dreadlings here because of this. I'm going to go ahead and Transmogrifade this guy. To go ahead and block this pocket army for free. There's an Eternal Seeker. Alright, so this is what our deck does. Let's go ahead and make that shardless. Let's go ahead and champ power here. I'm going to discard this Eternal Seeker. I'm going to go ahead and use the Eternal Seeker to void 2 drops here. So I'm going to go ahead and attack with this Exarch of the Egg. So when I put this Seeker into play, it's going to void all 2 drops, which includes my own. Nassif with the host. Welcome to folks coming over from Nassif's stream. We're hanging out playing a little Hex Shards of Fate this morning. We got tired of getting modern, so we're playing a game where we get to be a little bit more interactive than that. It's a fully digital trading card game that is very similar to Magic. Has a really great competitive tournament scene. There's 2 $1,000 cash Hex tournaments you can play every single weekend. Yeah, right? Compared to Magic, it's so cheap. Alright, so now, like, here's an interesting decision, and why Runebind has a lot of play to it. Do I want to try and be lucky and Runebind my own Eternal Seeker here? Because my Eternal Seeker has the deploy trigger that lets it void things with a specific cost. So if I Runebind this and then draw a resource next turn, I'm going to get to redeploy it and void a bunch of their board. Pass the turn here. Their build is interesting. They have multiple Dread Apprentice and main deck Haunting Cry. Runebind this. Yep. Yeah, there's still variants that you have to play through. They don't remove all variants from the game, obviously, because like the game's having variants by design is something that like helps make them interesting, right? Little Asgard's Vengeance here. Yep. That's actually pretty good for us, right? Because, like, now I get to bring this back into play. Am I starting with this? Yeah, I'm going to start with this, because if we hit Aegilus, I'd rather... Yep. Alright, so Aegilus... Hopefully they don't have a main deck way to kill this. Aegilus, this is our big fatty boom boom reanimate. That's fair, Ace. Aegilus says, us and other cards we control are invincible. So this spider is invincible. We are currently invincible. And they already played one Lasgar's Vengeance, so if they don't have something like Casualty of War in their main deck here, they're probably pretty cold to this. I'm going to hold this for now in case we draw Theorize. And Spider going to start ticking down the 19-turn clock here. So the Spider Egg that we just got, the Exarch of the Egg that we played earlier... Oh, Exarch got voided. When it came into play, it created 2 Spider Eggs and put them into my opponent's deck. And then when they drew the Spider Egg, we got a little Spiderling here that's a little 1-1. 1-1 unblockable. So, this Aegilus itself is not invincible. But all my other troops are. So I didn't want to attack this in because they'd have been able to block it. And it doesn't matter that this can't block because I'm not blocking anyways because I can't take damage while it's in play. So ideally we want to get a second Aegilus into play because if we put 2 Aegiluses into play, they make each other invincible and basically lock our opponent out of the game if they don't have something like Transmogrifade to transform one of them or to void it. It's alright, 17 more turns. Go ahead, opponent. On the spider beatdown plan. And now post-board, I expect my opponent will have ways to kill Aegilus in their deck. Usually they have 3 to 4 ways to kill Aegilus in their board, but game 1, usually they're pretty cold to it. Except for like double Lasgar's Vengeance type situations. So, in response to this, I'm actually going to Transmogrifade the Emperor's Lackey. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I would like them to not be able to sacrifice this when I play the Eternal Seeker next turn and let them draw more cards. Because they're out for this Aegilus is likely getting double Lasgar's Vengeance going. And they're going to need to see additional cards likely in order to do that. We used Mordrom's Gift to return a troop from our discard pile to play. We're a Reanimator style deck, which basically means we're not aiming to cast our cards. We're aiming to cheat them into play through that method. I'm just gonna Theorize here. Nah, I'm just gonna go ahead and play the Eternal Seeker. Choose to void all 3 costs, and I think at this point I could start attacking with the Aegilus, right? They feel like they don't have a way to punish this attack. Like famous last words, right? Nope, they just took the hit. God bless. Let's go ahead and Theorize here. Another Aegilus. Sweet. So we will technically be able to lock them out next turn because Rotten Rancor will return that Aegilus to play. It just doesn't take any damage at all. So Invincible just prevents all of the damage. You can't even assign to it. So that's one of the differences between Hex and Magic. If you have something with Crush and you attack into something with Invincible, you don't crush over for extra like you would trample over for extra in Magic. The Storm part of this deck is post-board against control decks. We board into this card called Syzygy that says whenever we play an action, it gets reduced cost. And we play this card, Bounty of the Magus, that draws additional cards and puts itself back into our deck, along with this card that deals additional damage and puts itself back into our deck. And the Reanimator plan isn't great against control decks, but the Storm plan, where we draw a bunch of cards and then kill them, is great against control decks. Am I just clicking submit here? Dreaded and Massacre both seem kind of mediocre, right? I think I want Withering Gaze to spot check for removal against Aegilus before I put it back into play, ideally. So I think I just want to click submit here against Redlings. Yeah, it had can't block on it because it was modified by one of my opponent's cards. So normally the Storko can block. Yeah, so basically the question that our team was trying to answer is like, it feels like the format is mostly aggressive decks and control decks right now. So, basically we built this main deck to be really well positioned against the more aggressive decks in the format, like what my opponent's playing by putting Aegilus into play very quickly. And then against the control decks, we turn into the Storm style deck that's going to be very potent against them. Go ahead and put Sapphire Ice here, and then put another resource on top of my deck, since I do need a third resource here at some point. We got a couple Exarch of the Eggs to slow our opponent down here, ideally. Hopefully we hit, like, a well there, so we can play some of these blood cards out. Perfect. Grab a blood, play this Exarch of the Egg out, just 1/3 with lethal, and it does put 2 spider eggs into my opponent's deck, but like, the eggs aren't the reason we're playing this card. We're playing this card because it's a 1/3 with lethal for 2. I think if they offer this trade, I'm taking it. Yeah, so this gains them, or loses them life and draws them cards when it dies, but I think that's worthwhile here. I don't really want to take the hit for 4. This gives us a good opportunity to get a Withering Gaze in here, I think. Yeah, let's gaze and see what's up. Gruesome Deed and a Crusader. So that Crusader is going to be a 6/6 from this Gravengeist. A little bit on the back foot here. So opponent's going to get to scrounge a 6/6 Crusader out here, which will make 2 Dreadlings from the Wicked Web spawn, and make this 3. So we're going to take 5 this turn, but we'll trade with the Underworld Crusader again. So I'll get to draw more cards, but we'll alleviate pressure from the table yet again. Hopefully we can fight a Transmogrifade or a Runebind to deal with this Gravengeist next turn. Why didn't they scrounge? I don't... Huh. They have a Deathseeker here. They might have drawn a Deathseeker and they want to scrounge that, so it gets the comes back into play. I don't understand why they didn't scrounge. Alright, let's start with Arcane Focus, see what we get. I don't really need another Eternal Seeker. I think I'd rather guarantee the resource. The scrounge is free, because when they scrounge, they make 2 more Dreadlings, and it's upside. Gravengeist says whenever a troop leaves their crypt, this gets bigger. So they would have hit us for 2 with the Dreadlings, they would have made this bigger, and they would have had the same number of things in their bin. So the scrounge was actually just like the freest of free. Man, that's bad for us. Alright, I guess we'll take a focus. That way if we draw a non-slow shard next turn, we can focus into a reanimate. We're probably still dead here, but if they would have scrounged last turn, we'd be even more dead. Think we're supposed to Sapphire Ice? Yeah, maybe. I guess it's like 1 spell versus 1 spell. Alright, they did have the Deathseeker. Redrew a well, because I'm a lucker. Alright, if we draw Mordrom's Gift. Rats. We're gonna be just dead here. Yeah. Alright, let's get game 3 on the play here. This isn't a Caress matchup, right? We were talking about boarding Caress against the Ruby decks. I'm going to try this. I'm going to bring in some Massacres. And cut some Whispers and see how that feels. I don't think Massacre is completely unreasonable. This hand's pretty good, right? We get to, like, Withering Gaze and, like, spot check for interaction, and then we just need to draw a couple resources in a couple turns here. Unfortunately, don't have any Fate Weave, but if we draw a piece of ice, we'll be good to go. Altha! With the 15-month resubscription. Thank you for the continued support. Hey, Jeff, how was Gen Con? Play any cool new games? I did, actually. We picked up, I picked up two games that I really enjoyed. One was called Century Golem Edition, and then another one was called Evolutions. And we're actually going to be playing, I think we're going to try and figure out how to stream the Golem game and possibly the Evolution game using the old setup I used for Paper Magic. But the Golem game has some neat stuff going on in it, and it doesn't... I guess maybe I should have gazed them so they couldn't gaze us if they have that in their deck. They're playing kind of a unique collection of cards. Like, I haven't played Gaze in Red Links for a while, but they might. Alright, didn't get punished. Let's go ahead and gaze you, see what you got. Oh, okay, play was a lot of fun, too. Yep. Wow, that sucks. Huh. That really sucks. So they have Gaze... And they have double Casualty of War here. Alright, well, we're taking their Gaze. Ugh. I'm gonna play this Exarch of the Aegilus just to preserve my life total here. Because, like, you playing this other Withering Gaze this turn doesn't get us anywhere. Okay. Let's say assumedly champ power here because they want to get scrounge fodder for their other thing. You're not wrong, they don't have a lot of pressure. Focus. Ice. Ice. Or we could just do that. Let's draw. All 3 Withering Gazes. Putting Casualties of Wars into our deck kind of sucks. But... so you get to make some Dreadlings here. Non-slow shard would be a great hit. When you're running hot, you're running hot. I think I'm going to leave this back. I don't think getting in 1 point of damage here is worthwhile if they, like, drew a Gruesome Deed or another Casualty of War. And again, you don't want to fire off your champion power willy-nilly in this deck. We kind of want to save it until we have something that we want to discard, like we draw another Aegilus or another Runeseeker. Cruel Venom Blade? Okay. Sure. No blocks. Alright, I mean, I kind of have a card I want to discard now. I think I'm going to wait one more turn at least. Because again, I want to give us the most possible chances around Aegilus to put in the bed. I should probably be shipping with this at this point, right? Maybe. We're probably pretty dead if they kill us either way. All of the scrounge fodder is belong to them. Oh, and now I can't even be attacking with this unless I want to transmog that first. Theorize is a good draw. Alright, now we're just a second Aegilus away from locking them out of this game. Once we have this Rotten Rancor here in our hand. I'm gonna hit this now since we might have another one. Ooh, Eternal Seeker. I'm actually just going to bin this Transmogrifade, I think, and then play this out. Again, I want to hold this Rotten Rancor for when I draw an Aegilus, and I can just cast this Seeker with one more resource. No blocks. Non-resource on top of my deck. Already threw 2 Theorizes. I can start attacking with this at least. Once I don't have this back to block. This is invincible and it's lethal, so they can't really block it profitably. Again, I'm holding my champion power for in case I draw a Aegilus. I probably want to hold this Runebind up when I play this Eternal Seeker out, just so I get a time walk in case they have a way to kill Aegilus. Ding, ding, ding. And we even drew a non-slow shard here, so we can Rancor with Runebind up. So this should just lock up the game here. So now the Aegiluses make each other invincible. Yep. And usually Blood Ruby doesn't have a way to deal with an invincible troop, so... Got him. Got him good. The resource cost on a Mysterious Rune is 2, which is really convenient, because you can, like, Runebind their things, then, like, Seeker, and then clear the 2-drops, which is great. Yeah. Yeah, the third gaze was really good. It was really, really good. I think we're actually going to play some Redlings. I had someone ask earlier if we could see some...